10 Poorest Countries in the World. Welcome back, folks. Today, we're embarking on a journey to explore the underbelly of global economics, delving into the realms of hardship, resilience, and the stark reality of poverty. But before we dive in, if you're enjoying this content, don't forget to hit that subscribe button below, as it helps us and means the world to us to know that you enjoy this content. We promise to keep on making content for you. Now, let's talk about poverty. It's a multifaceted issue, and measuring it isn't as straightforward as counting coins in a piggy bank. Factors like GDP per capita, income distribution, and access to basic necessities all come into play. So, as we venture through this countdown, remember, these rankings are not merely numbers but a reflection of complex societal challenges. Let's begin our countdown of the top 10 poorest countries in the world. Number 10, Madagascar. Madagascar, often hailed as a biodiversity hotspot with its unique flora and fauna, faces significant economic challenges that landed on this list. Despite its natural beauty and cultural richness, the country struggles with poverty due to a combination of factors. Political instability has been a recurring issue in Madagascar, marked by periods of unrest and frequent changes in leadership. This instability has hindered long-term development efforts, creating uncertainty for investors and hindering economic growth. Moreover, Madagascar's infrastructure remains underdeveloped, particularly in rural areas where a significant portion of the population resides. Limited access to basic services such as healthcare, education, and clean water further exacerbates the plight of the people, perpetuating the cycle of poverty. Natural disasters, including cyclones, floods, and droughts, pose additional challenges to Madagascar's economy. These events not only cause immediate devastation but also disrupt agricultural activities, upon which many Malagasy people rely for their livelihoods. Furthermore, despite efforts to diversify the economy, Madagascar remains heavily dependent on agriculture, particularly the cultivation of cash crops such as vanilla and cloves. Fluctuations in global commodity prices can have a significant impact on the country's economy, further contributing to its vulnerability. Madagascar's position as the 10th poorest country in the world is a testament to the multifaceted challenges it faces. While the island nation possesses immense potential, unlocking it requires concerted efforts to address issues of political stability, infrastructure development, and economic diversification. Number 9, Chad. Chad, a landlocked country in Central Africa, faces significant economic challenges that contribute to its position among the world's poorest nations. Several factors contribute to Chad's economic struggles, including political instability, conflict, and environmental degradation. Political instability has been a persistent issue in Chad, with frequent changes in government and instances of internal conflict. This instability undermines investor confidence and hampers efforts to implement long-term development strategies. As a result, Chad struggles to attract foreign investment and foster sustainable economic growth. Additionally, Chad has a history of conflict, including civil wars and clashes with rebel groups. These conflicts have displaced thousands of people, disrupted economic activities, and strained government resources. The ongoing insecurity also hampers infrastructure development and limits access to basic services such as healthcare and education. Environmental degradation poses another significant challenge to Chad's economy. The country is susceptible to droughts, desertification, and soil erosion, which degrade agricultural land and threaten food security. With a large portion of the population relying on subsistence farming for their livelihoods, environmental degradation exacerbates poverty and vulnerability to food shortages. Moreover, Chad faces structural challenges in its economy, including a heavy reliance on oil exports. While oil revenues provide a significant portion of government income, they also make the economy vulnerable to fluctuations in global oil prices. Additionally, the benefits of oil wealth have not been evenly distributed, exacerbating income inequality and poverty. Chad as the 9th poorest country in the world reflects the complex interplay of political instability, conflict, environmental degradation, and economic challenges. Addressing these issues will require concerted efforts from the Chadian government, international partners, and civil society to foster peace, stability, and sustainable development. Number 8, Liberia. Liberia, situated on the west coast of Africa, is a country with a tumultuous history that has left deep scars on its economy and society. Despite being rich in natural resources such as iron ore, rubber, and timber, Liberia grapples with widespread poverty and underdevelopment. One of the primary factors contributing to Liberia's economic struggles is its history of civil conflict. The country endured 2 devastating civil wars between 1989 and 2003, resulting in the loss of countless lives, widespread destruction of infrastructure, and displacement of millions of people. The aftermath of these conflicts left Liberia's economy in shambles, with the rebuilding process hindered by corruption and political instability. The Ebola epidemic of 2014 to 2016 further exacerbated Liberia's economic woes. The outbreak not only claimed thousands of lives but also dealt a severe blow to the country's already fragile healthcare system and disrupted economic activities, particularly in the agriculture and tourism sectors. Corruption remains a significant obstacle to Liberia's development. Despite efforts to combat corruption, it continues to permeate various levels of society, undermining the effectiveness of government institutions and diverting resources away from much-needed development projects. Limited access to education and healthcare also contributes to the cycle of poverty in Liberia. High illiteracy rates and inadequate healthcare infrastructure hinder human capital development and limit opportunities for economic advancement, particularly for the most vulnerable segments of the population. Infrastructure deficits, including poor road networks and unreliable electricity supply, further impede Liberia's economic growth potential. These challenges deter foreign investment and hinder the country's ability to fully leverage its natural resources for sustainable development. In conclusion, Liberia's position as the 8th poorest country in the world underscores the complex interplay of historical, political, and economic factors that continue to shape its development trajectory. Number 7. Malawi. Malawi, a landlocked country in southeastern Africa, faces significant economic challenges despite its rich cultural heritage and natural beauty. Several factors contribute to Malawi's position among the world's poorest nations. One of the primary issues plaguing Malawi's economy is its heavy reliance on agriculture, which accounts for a significant portion of the country's GDP and employment. However, agricultural productivity is hindered by factors such as reliance on rain-fed farming, limited access to modern farming techniques, and vulnerability to climate change-related shocks such as droughts and floods. These challenges perpetuate food insecurity and limit opportunities for economic diversification. Malawi's economy is also constrained by limited access to education and healthcare. High illiteracy rates and inadequate healthcare infrastructure contribute to poor human capital development, limiting the country's ability to achieve sustainable economic growth. Additionally, the prevalence of HIV/AIDS further strains the healthcare system and reduces productivity among the workforce. Political instability and governance challenges have also hindered Malawi's development efforts. Corruption, bureaucratic inefficiencies, and weak rule of law deter investment and hinder the effectiveness of development initiatives. Furthermore, periodic political tensions and electoral disputes disrupt economic activities and undermine investor confidence. Infrastructure deficits, including poor road networks and unreliable electricity supply, further hamper Malawi's economic potential. Inadequate transportation infrastructure increases the cost of doing business and limits market access for rural farmers, exacerbating poverty in remote areas. Despite these challenges, Malawi has made strides in poverty reduction efforts through initiatives such as social protection programs and agricultural subsidies. However, sustained efforts and investments are needed to address the root causes of poverty and promote inclusive economic growth. In conclusion, Malawi's position as the 7th poorest country in the world underscores the importance of addressing structural challenges such as agricultural productivity, human capital development, governance, and infrastructure to unlock the country's full economic potential and improve the well-being of its citizens. Number 6. Mozambique. Mozambique, located in southeastern Africa, boasts stunning landscapes and a diverse cultural heritage. However, beneath its natural beauty lies a nation grappling with significant economic challenges that contribute to its ranking as one of the poorest countries in the world. One of the key factors hindering Mozambique's economic development is its vulnerability to natural disasters. The country is prone to cyclones, floods, and droughts, which not only cause immediate devastation but also disrupt agricultural activities, the backbone of Mozambique's economy. Small-scale farmers, who comprise a significant portion of the population, bear the brunt of these climate-related shocks, exacerbating food insecurity and poverty. Political instability has also impeded Mozambique's economic progress. Decades of civil conflict, followed by sporadic outbreaks of violence, have hindered investment, disrupted infrastructure development, and displaced communities. Though Mozambique has made strides towards peace and stability in recent years, lingering tensions pose ongoing challenges to sustainable development. Economic diversification remains a pressing issue for Mozambique. While the country possesses vast natural resources, including coal, natural gas, and minerals, its economy remains heavily reliant on agriculture, which is susceptible to external shocks and climate variability. Limited industrialization and value addition further constrain Mozambique's ability to create employment opportunities and enhance productivity. Infrastructure deficits, particularly in rural areas, pose significant challenges to Mozambique's development. Poor road networks, limited access to electricity, and inadequate healthcare facilities hinder economic growth and impede access to essential services for many Mozambicans. Despite these challenges, Mozambique has shown resilience and potential for growth. Efforts to improve governance, attract foreign investment, and diversify the economy are underway. Moreover, international assistance and development initiatives aim to address key development challenges and support Mozambique's journey towards sustainable economic development. In conclusion, Mozambique's position as the sixth poorest country in the world underscores the need for concerted efforts to address structural constraints, build resilience to climate change, and foster inclusive growth. By investing in infrastructure, human capital, and economic diversification, Mozambique can unlock its full potential and improve the well-being of its people. Number 5. Niger. Niger, a landlocked country in West Africa, faces significant economic challenges that contribute to its ranking as one of the poorest nations globally. Several factors contribute to Niger's struggle with poverty and underdevelopment. One of the primary challenges facing Niger is food insecurity. The country experiences recurrent droughts and desertification, which severely impact agricultural productivity and exacerbate hunger and malnutrition. With agriculture being the mainstay of the economy and employing a large portion of the population, these climate-related challenges have far-reaching consequences for livelihoods and economic stability. Moreover, Niger's economy is heavily dependent on subsistence agriculture, with limited diversification into other sectors. The lack of industrialization and value addition further hampers economic growth and job creation opportunities. As a result, many Nigerians struggle to escape the cycle of poverty, with few avenues for income generation beyond traditional farming practices. High population growth exacerbates Niger's economic challenges. With one of the highest birth rates globally, Niger's population is projected to double within a few decades, putting immense pressure on limited resources and exacerbating poverty levels. Limited access to family planning services and cultural factors contribute to the high fertility rates, further complicating efforts to address population growth. Niger also faces governance challenges, including corruption, weak institutions, and political instability, which hinder development efforts and undermine investor confidence. Inadequate infrastructure, including poor road networks and limited access to electricity and clean water, further impede economic progress and limit opportunities for growth. Niger has made strides in addressing poverty through initiatives such as social protection programs and investments in agriculture and rural development. However, sustained efforts and international support are needed to overcome the structural constraints that perpetuate poverty and promote inclusive economic growth. Niger's position as the fifth poorest country in the world highlights the urgent need for comprehensive strategies to address food insecurity, promote economic diversification, and strengthen governance and institutions. Number 4. Democratic Republic of the Congo. The Democratic Republic of the Congo, DRC, situated in Central Africa, is a nation rich in natural resources, including copper, cobalt, and diamonds. However, despite its vast potential, the DRC faces numerous economic challenges that contribute to its ranking among the world's poorest countries. One of the primary factors hindering the DRC's economic development is its history of conflict and political instability. Decades of civil war, internal strife, and regional conflicts have left deep scars on the country, resulting in widespread destruction of infrastructure, displacement of populations, and loss of lives. The lingering effects of conflict continue to impede economic progress and deter foreign investment. The exploitation of natural resources, while a potential source of wealth for the country, has often fueled conflict and corruption instead. Illicit mining activities, coupled with weak governance and regulatory oversight, have led to the mismanagement of resources and hindered efforts to translate resource wealth into sustainable development outcomes for the population. Furthermore, the DRC's vast size and challenging terrain pose logistical challenges to infrastructure development, including road networks, electricity supply, and access to clean water and healthcare services. Limited access to education and healthcare exacerbates poverty and hampers human capital development, constraining opportunities for economic advancement. The agriculture sector, which employs the majority of the population, remains largely subsistence-based and vulnerable to climate variability. While the DRC possesses significant agricultural potential, including fertile land and abundant water resources, productivity is hindered by limited access to inputs, outdated farming practices, and inadequate market infrastructure. Despite these challenges, the DRC has made progress in recent years, with efforts to stabilize the political situation and improve governance. Additionally, international support and development assistance aim to address key challenges and promote sustainable economic growth and poverty reduction in the country. The Democratic Republic of the Congo's position as the fourth poorest country in the world underscores the complex interplay of historical, political, and economic factors that continue to shape its development trajectory. Number 3. Central African Republic. The Central African Republic, CAR, located in the heart of Africa, is a nation facing profound economic challenges that have resulted in widespread poverty and underdevelopment. Several factors contribute to the CAR's status as one of the poorest countries in the world. One of the primary challenges facing the CAR is its history of conflict and political instability like Democratic Republic of the Congo. The country has experienced multiple coups, armed rebellions, and periods of civil unrest since gaining independence in 1960. These conflicts have devastated infrastructure, displaced populations, and disrupted economic activities, undermining the country's development efforts. The prevalence of violence and insecurity has also led to significant humanitarian crises in the CAR. Millions of people have been displaced internally or forced to flee across borders as refugees, further straining limited resources and exacerbating poverty levels. The insecurity has also hindered access to education and healthcare, limiting opportunities for human capital development and perpetuating the cycle of poverty. The CAR's economy is heavily dependent on subsistence agriculture, with the majority of the population engaged in small-scale farming for their livelihoods. However, agricultural productivity is low, and the sector is vulnerable to climate variability, including recurrent droughts and floods. Limited access to modern farming techniques, inadequate infrastructure, and land tenure issues further hinder agricultural development and economic growth. Weak governance and institutional capacity pose significant challenges to development in the CAR. Corruption is pervasive, and state institutions are often ineffective and poorly equipped to provide essential services to the population. The lack of accountability and transparency undermines trust in the government and deters investment, further perpetuating poverty and underdevelopment. Infrastructure deficits, including poor road networks, limited access to electricity, and inadequate healthcare facilities, further impede economic progress in the CAR. Remote and rural areas are particularly underserved, exacerbating disparities in access to basic services and economic opportunities. Despite these challenges, efforts to promote peace and reconciliation are underway in the CAR, supported by international actors and regional organizations. Additionally, development assistance aims to address key challenges and support sustainable economic growth and poverty reduction in the country. Number 2, Burundi. Burundi, located in the heart of Africa, is a small, landlocked nation facing significant economic challenges. Despite its lush landscapes and vibrant culture, Burundi struggles with poverty, political instability, and limited economic opportunities. One of the primary factors contributing to Burundi's economic struggles is its history of political unrest and ethnic tensions. The country experienced a brutal civil war in the 1990s, followed by periodic outbreaks of violence and political instability. These conflicts have hindered economic development, disrupted social cohesion, and contributed to widespread poverty. Agriculture is the backbone of Burundi's economy, employing the majority of the population and contributing a significant portion to the country's GDP. However, agricultural productivity is hampered by factors such as land scarcity, soil erosion, and limited access to modern farming techniques and inputs. As a result, many Burundians struggle to secure enough food for their families, perpetuating the cycle of poverty. Limited access to education and healthcare further exacerbates Burundi's economic challenges. High illiteracy rates, particularly among women, hinder human capital development and limit opportunities for economic advancement. Additionally, inadequate healthcare infrastructure and limited access to essential services contribute to poor health outcomes and undermine productivity. Infrastructure deficits, including poor road networks and unreliable electricity supply, pose significant challenges to Burundi's economic development. Limited access to transportation and energy infrastructure hampers market access, impedes trade, and deters investment in key sectors of the economy. Furthermore, Burundi's economy is vulnerable to external shocks, including fluctuations in global commodity prices and adverse weather conditions. The country relies heavily on coffee exports for foreign exchange earnings, leaving it exposed to price volatility in the international market. Despite these challenges, Burundi has shown resilience and potential for growth. Efforts to promote peace and reconciliation, strengthen governance, and invest in infrastructure and human capital are underway. Number 1, South Sudan. South Sudan, the world's youngest nation, gained independence from Sudan in 2011 after decades of civil war. However, despite its newfound sovereignty, South Sudan faces immense economic challenges that have propelled it to the top of the list of the world's poorest countries. One of the primary factors contributing to South Sudan's economic struggles is its history of conflict and political instability. Since gaining independence, South Sudan has been embroiled in a cycle of violence, characterized by ethnic tensions, power struggles, and armed conflict. These conflicts have devastated infrastructure, displaced millions of people, and hindered economic development. The oil sector, which was expected to be a boon for South Sudan's economy, has been a double-edged sword. While oil revenues provide a significant portion of the government's income, mismanagement, corruption, and fluctuations in global oil prices have undermined the country's economic stability. Moreover, disputes over oil revenues between South Sudan and Sudan have further strained relations and hindered economic cooperation. Agriculture, the primary livelihood for the majority of South Sudanese people, faces significant challenges. The country's fertile land has the potential to support agricultural development, but decades of conflict and neglect have left many farming communities impoverished and food insecure. In addition, environmental degradation and climate variability further threaten agricultural productivity and food security. South Sudan's infrastructure remains severely underdeveloped, with limited road networks, inadequate healthcare facilities, and unreliable electricity supply. The lack of basic infrastructure hampers economic growth, impedes access to essential services, and deters investment in key sectors of the economy. Furthermore, South Sudan faces social challenges such as high levels of poverty, illiteracy, and gender inequality. Limited access to education and healthcare, particularly in rural areas, exacerbates poverty and undermines human capital development. Despite these challenges, there is hope for South Sudan's future. Efforts to promote peace and reconciliation, strengthen governance, and diversify the economy are underway. International assistance and development initiatives aim to address key challenges and support South Sudan's journey towards sustainable peace and prosperity. As we conclude our exploration of the top 10 poorest countries in the world, it's evident that poverty is a complex and multifaceted issue that affects millions of people globally. From political instability to environmental challenges and economic constraints, the reasons behind poverty are diverse and interconnected. But our journey doesn't end here. In our next video, we'll be shifting our focus to a brighter side of the spectrum as we delve into the 10 best cities to live in. From bustling metropolises to picturesque havens, we'll explore the places where quality of life flourishes, opportunities abound, and communities thrive.